Today, I'm tackling the beauty of having a career in games, specifically as an animator. Obviously, it's not all good, but I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about my career so far, what's good, what's not, and the ups and downs that I had to go through in a nice video to give you hopefully a bird's eye view of some of the things that you yourself will have to go through in your career in due time. Let's get started with another episode. So as always, before we get started, I have to actually tell you guys about my website, obviously, because in there you can find my animation workshop and also my shop. Look out for a new video soon to take you guys through some new items that I have on my shop for sale. And most importantly, any support that you guys give me both on the workshop and also on the shop will contribute a huge amount to this channel, so I can keep on making these videos for you guys, because that's something that I don't mention enough. But obviously YouTube takes time, but it also takes money, and unless I have your support on both sides, then obviously it becomes difficult, right? With a daytime job and then YouTube. So you guys supporting me in this way motivates me a whole lot. So if you don't mind, go and check it out, harveynewman.com, check out the workshop, check out the shop. If you can contribute in any ways, I'll highly appreciate it. If you need some reassurance about how good the workshop is, make sure to check out some reviews on Google. I have a few students that reviewed it and say nothing but great things. So if you'd like to join me, please do on my workshop. Now this video is dedicated to all those that are pursuing an animation career in games. Animation is really hard. Working in games is really hard. When you combine the two, sometimes it feels like it's a mountain that you cannot actually get on top of. However, I'm here to tell you that it's possible, and when you do it, it's wonderful. And I realized not long ago that I've been talking about little bits and pieces of my career, but I never really made a video speaking about the different stages in my career and how it felt to be an animator at different stages from the beginning to now. So I think it's time for us to tackle that. So I'm going to give you guys hopefully a glimpse in the shortest period of time possible of how it felt to be a junior animator, how it felt to be a mid-level, senior, lead, director, and hopefully that will actually get you guys hype to actually get into the industry, but also give you guys a little bit of background and what to expect when you get in and start animating for games. So let's talk about my junior years in animation. All right, so my junior years were very interesting. You guys have seen videos before, but let me tell you guys that obviously to get to the point that I just wanted to actually work professionally as an animator took a lot of effort. I spent years and years trying to work on top of my day job that I was doing at the time, which was not very nice. I was trying to actually spend the evenings working on my show reel, working on my skills, animation skills, to hopefully get them to a point that were good enough for somebody to hire me. Top tip here is that please don't be picky about who you want to work for when you start animating. I was a little bit picky. Thankfully, my mentor, Jason Ryan, he told me to actually not be picky, because the most important thing that you can do is start. No matter who hires you, just start animating. And that was an amazing tip, because at that point in time I was so stuck into working in film that if it wasn't for Jason telling me don't get stuck, just start working, I would never find the beauty of games in terms of working in games. I knew that I like to play games, but I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with working in games as well. So fast forward a few years after I got my first job. My first job was in this company called Eurocom, and when you start as a junior, you basically need more help than any other animator. And doesn't matter how talented you are, but what happens is that because you actually come in straight from outside into a very fast-paced environment, you need to have a lot of help to get you to not only work as efficiently as the studio is, but also to make sure that you actually follow all the steps and learn the pipeline as fast as you possibly can. In about 6 months time, I moved from being a junior to being a mid-level animator. So I felt very proud of that moment when they told me like, okay, you're now working as fast as the rest, you're now learning as fast as the rest, you're creating quality work, so now you can move into a mid-level animator. Those junior times, I kind of feel like now looking back that I wish I had taken longer to be a junior, because like I think I was moved to mid-level animator mainly because they needed somebody to do a lot of tasks, and a junior could not actually fit within my role anymore, so they moved me quickly to a mid-level. But at that point in time, I thought it was because of my skills, because I was so good. Being at a junior level for a long time is actually really important, because there's so many things for you to absorb. Like, you come from maybe just animating straight up only Maya, doing your animations, to then coming to a studio to have to learn a pipeline. That's really difficult. To have to learn an engine, that is really difficult. To have to actually work with the other departments and try to explain to other departments what you're trying to achieve. Being a junior is a perfect time for you to take your time and just ask as many questions as you can. And if you are a junior for a year or two, it's good times. Use that time wisely, because what that time will give you is basically answers to actually have a foundation that is really important for you to actually then be the best animator you can possibly can. So being a junior is the perfect time for you to impress others. Make sure you do that, work hard, absorb as much as possible, and make the most of it for as long as it takes. So mid-level animator, to quote Star Wars, this is where the fun begins. Because what happens as a mid-level animator, now you are giving a little bit more responsibility. That's what happened to me. And because you're giving more responsibility, people expect you to be a bit more autonomous when it comes to animations, right? So before, as a junior, you get given an animation, and then you get a lead or somebody that is next to you, like senior, or somebody that more experienced than you, to sit next to you and be like, this is what they asked you, this is what you need to do, and you need to follow these steps in order to do it. Let me know when you've done that, and then we can go to the next step. Being a mid-level animator means that all that process, you should know it through and through, which means that somebody gives you a task, animate this and put it in game, you should know exactly how to do it without having to ask much for help. However, depending on the studio, sometimes you need more help than others. Sometimes it's like super straightforward, no problem. Sometimes you really need to ask questions to make sure that it's as clear as possible. You need to start seeing a mid-level animator as somebody that actually, because you are actually given more responsibility, you should always aim to kind of like have or work towards a little bit higher than with the stuff that they gave you. So if you're a mid-level animator, try to see how the senior animators are working and what kind of things are they doing that makes them a senior, so you can start emulating those things, because it's only then that you can start to actually go into a senior level. So for me, being a senior level happened when I was lucky enough to work with a lot of people that were really talented, that worked in film before for a long time and worked in all these amazing projects in Sony and DreamWorks and Disney. And because I had all these animators around me, I felt like I could ask a lot of questions, and I felt like I asked them questions not only about the talent, but mostly about their career. How was it at Disney? How was it when you worked in Tarzan? How was it when you worked in this project and that project? And I really wanted to absorb as many things as possible from them, so I could emulate them in my own work, so I could actually go towards a senior level. And that was really important to me, and it really taught me a lot, because what I found out as being a mid-level animator is that being a senior, being a lead, is not about your talent only, it's about your attitude and about your personality. All the senior and leads that I found, they were really good and they were respected, and people listened to them, not because they were forceful in any ways, but because they had this personality that are like, I know a lot, yet I'm humble about my skills, and I'm willing to show you how I do my stuff in a non-selfish way. And that is basically what I got from, and this is why I feel I was lucky to be surrounded by people that were super talented, because I could see there was like traits they had in common, and those traits was something that clicked with me, and I felt like I needed to emulate those as well. Being a mid-level animator is great. When the fun starts, make sure that you don't get overwhelmed. and make sure that you absorb as many things as possible and become independent as fast as possible. Being a senior animator, it's all about responsibility, and this is where you get to see a fork on the road. At the first time that you get to see a fork on the road. Animation, just like any other discipline in games, at some point in time, especially when you get to a senior level, you get to a fork. And this fork basically goes, would you like to manage people? Or do you want to continue like working in your craft and becoming the best animator possible? Those two like paths, they are very different. And you can be an amazing animator and want to actually direct people and lead people, or you can be an amazing animator and forever and ever animate and become the best animator possible. But this is where you first see where do you want to go, because at this point as a senior animator, you already know the pipe, you already know how to do work. Even you probably have been in a few studios, not only one, but maybe 2 or 3 different studios, and you're starting to see the things that are common amongst all the studios, the things that you can be like, okay, so turns out a project goes from here to here, I have to do these things, we are in pre-production, we are in production, we are in finaling mode, what kind of speed do I need to actually work on? Perhaps I don't want to be the animator that wants to do overtime every day and just like burn myself out. Maybe I want to be the animator that actually wants to actually do a lot of work in a smart way so I can do as much as everyone else, but in a much shorter period of time. If you start doing those things, then people start like trusting you. And if they start trusting you, like then you're not only getting one piece of animation that you need to do and then pass on to someone else or like put in game. Now you're getting a section of the game or a creature or a character. You're getting a piece of work that you be like, okay, this is you. So you actually have to take this and like make it better, right? Or make it work, like if there's nothing. And that's basically what being a senior is basically a responsibility. And what you do with that responsibility means a lot about you and your career in the future. It's very important to bear that in mind, because for me, when I started being a senior, and that took me a while to actually be from senior to lead, no matter what studio I was actually jumping from to or whatever, I always felt like if I actually gathered the trust of the lead or the director and they could actually give me a piece, then for me it was like a challenge. I wanted to show them that even though they asked me this, I could deliver this. All right? And every single time was like a challenge. Okay, cool. You think that I'm good, you think that I'm gonna do a good job, but let me show you how good of a job I can do for you. And the more you do that, and if you have that mentality, and then all of a sudden you start getting into talks about being a lead. But being a lead is not for everybody, right? So keep that in mind, because some leads can work and some leads only manage. So you really have to actually kind of like play your cards right and think about it as you are being a senior. So for me, unlike when I was a junior that I actually moved to being mid-level animator really quickly, I felt really blessed that I was a senior for so long, because I could think very clearly, do I want to help out people or do I want to actually just work on my skills all the time? And for me, the longer I was a senior, the more I was like, I feel like I'm in such a good place as an animator that I feel like I want to help others to get to the level that I am or even be better than I am. And I feel like it's going to be much more fulfilling for me to be that person. So that's when I took that decision as a senior, right? So that is being a senior. Let's move on to being a lead. Okay, so lead animator. As I mentioned before, not for everybody. There's some leads that work, do animation, and there's some leads that only manage. It depends on the workload, depends on how many animators you have to do, how much work you have to do. A lot of people have to do a lot of paperwork, a lot of Excel sheets. Doesn't sound fun at all. However, as a lead, you get to start feeling that feeling of helping others, and to see the big picture is the very first time that you see that. So as a lead, now you're in charge of either a section of the game or you're in charge of the animation department. Depends. Sometimes there's directors and sometimes there's only leads, right? If there's only leads, then the leads are in charge of the whole animation department, and anything animation goes with the lead. So being a lead is actually really nice, because all of a sudden you get to solve problems that haven't really been solved before. So people will come to you and be like, Harvey, so turns out we're in a character that can jump onto a horse, and then the horse needs to run and gallop, and then you need to stop and unmount and then continue running. How do we do that? So then it's up to you to answer that question and to break the work in a way that you be like, okay, so we need this amount of animations, we need to break it down here, we need to do the separations there. Do we have code to support us on this? Do we have a technical animator that can actually deliver this to us? Do we have enough animators? How many animators? How long does it take? A lot of stuff going on in your mind all of a sudden. So you can start to see why some lead animators never really get to animate, because there's so many spinning plates happening at one time in games. It's hard that you sometimes don't have time to actually sit down in your Maya and basically take care of one animation, because you're not thinking about 10 different things at the same time, 10 different animations and how they are going to gel together. So it's really cool. To me, I felt like it made my mind work so hard and at so many different levels that I was hooked. To me, it was like, wow, I can actually get to solve this question. What happens if I solve it? What happens if it looks cool? What happens if it looks better than people expected? That's going to be cool. So when I got to that point, I was like, okay, now I know that I want to be a lead. I know that with great power comes great responsibility, but at the same time, if it pays off, you'll be that guy that created that thing because you could solve that answer. So it was amazing to actually be a lead, to actually see other people grow, and to also solve these questions that no one else had, that you are the one that gets to actually answer them, right? So that is basically what being a lead is. Obviously, it depends on the studio. If you have a director above you, the director is the one answering those questions, and then you as a lead is about you distributing the work, is about you keeping the quality of the animations up, and it's about you actually making sure the animators feel good, the team feels good, feels united, feels strong. That is also a lead. So it can actually kind of change between those two, depending on the studio, depending how big the studio is and how much of a breakdown in terms of the team there is. So that's a lead. Now let's move on to the last level, which is a director. Now, as a director, this, to me at least, is brand new. So I've been doing this for about a year and a few months, and it's the very first time, and I feel like it's incredibly exciting again. So the reason why is because of this. When you are a lead, as I mentioned before, you are in charge of solving certain issues, or actually kind of looking at a feature specific and then be like, I want it to work this way, that way, go to different departments, talk to different people. However, as a director, you basically have to create the whole gameplay animation. It's all you. So basically you are the one kind of like going like, wouldn't it be nice if you did this thing, right? So you are the one maybe actually asking for the horse, and the guy kind of mounting the horse and galloping, you as a director, because you think that game mechanic is going to be really nice. So you speak with design and you actually get to an agreement, and then design says, this sounds cool, if you guys can make it, and you as the director were like, cool, let me just gather my troops and let's make it happen. Everything that moves in game is your domain to actually kind of like deal with, solve, massage, and make it work. So it feels really, it's a lot of responsibility, that's for sure. Once again, same thing, a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. That is even higher as a director, because if the game ultimately comes out and the animations look rubbish, they look rubbish because of you. You didn't do a good enough job, or you didn't hire enough people, or the talent was not good enough, or you didn't have enough direction. Any of those things can be true. However, if you actually do a kick-ass game that has kick-ass animations that stand out from the rest, then that's also going to be on you. And people are going to be very much interested in knowing who did these animations and why do they look so good. So this is what being a director means. So once again, goes back to that idea that it's very difficult to actually animate as a director. You still can. There's no one stopping me from animating in my team, for example, but there's so many things going on at all times that is very much impossible for me to actually touch Maya at this point. I have to just direct. I have to just take decisions every day, all day. There's always questions that need answers, and then it's up to me to actually decide exactly which way to go. There's always a left and right. There's always some compromises that need to be done here and there. What's the fastest way? What's the shortest way? Can we spend more time, less time? How many people? How fast? Does it fit? All of those things are things that are always revolving in my head on a daily basis as a director. So definitely not for everybody, definitely not for the faint-hearted, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, especially when you have a good team. Thankfully, I have an amazing team. Shout out to my team at Build a Rocket Boy. Everybody working for me right now is amazing, phenomenal, super talented. So shout out to everybody. So when you have a team that feels that good and you feel like a family, because that's how it feels. It feels like everybody's friends. It feels like a family. Everyone respects each other. It's very easy to work, because ideas come about organically, right? I'm not the only one that can actually come up with ideas. Everyone can come up with ideas. And that is basically the best way that you can direct a team, to know that you're not the be-all end-all kind of situation, that other people can come up with ideas. They are free to create. They are free to actually be creative. And they are also kind of like their voice are heard. So that is basically how I found to be a director right now. It's awesome and I'm hooked. So yeah, so that's what being an animation director is at this point in time in games. The journey of animation in games is definitely a roller coaster, because every studio is different. And as I keep saying in many videos, the industry is incredibly young, and because the industry is so young, there's a lot to be learned, and every studio works differently because they're trying to sort out like how to best work things out. Sometimes it can be identical between two studios, sometimes it can be wildly different because a studio is trying something different. And you just have to know how to adapt to whatever studio you go to, because although in the beginning it might feel odd to go to a studio that try things in a different way, you will learn something. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but you will learn something. And by the end of the experience with that studio, you will be a better animator. And that's what matters most here. That is what I want to say overall. Because what happens throughout your career from a junior to a director is that you actually get to learn a whole bunch of stuff. And all of this stuff will make you the animator that you will need to be. Because everyone is different. Everyone goes through different experiences. But what most important is that you keep learning, and especially true for games, because animation is always changing in games, and this is why you have to keep learning, right? Because it's not only animation moving, Maya and software and techniques, but also engines. The engines are constantly evolving, so getting that bridge to be as sturdy as possible will make you the best animator possible, and will make you go up the ranks in a much more efficient and sturdy way. That will make you feel like as long as you have your abilities with you, you will be good no matter where you go. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that was helpful to all of you. So before I go and before we finish, I have to actually kind of tell you guys that I have a Patreon page now, and you guys can support me there if you enjoyed this content. I would highly appreciate if you at least give it a check and find out some of the things that I'm giving away and behind the scenes, and I'm doing quite a few things that are different from YouTube, so you can go and check it out there. I also have to give a massive shout out to my 5 supporters and my 5 backers so far. You guys are epic. Thank you so much for the support monthly. Highly appreciate it. If you guys want to join them and you guys enjoy this content, feel free to check out my Patreon page. There's lots of benefits, and it's only going to get better with time. I'm having a ton of fun sharing content and ad-free videos behind the scenes and all kinds of stuff. So I hope I can see more of you there. Any money that I get from Patreon, obviously, just like everything else, goes towards these videos, goes towards this channel, and it helps me a ton to hopefully one day get to like be a YouTuber full time. Who knows? Maybe that will happen at some point. But until then, please check it out, and anything you guys can contribute will be highly appreciated. And that's all I had for you guys. I hope you guys have a good week, and as always, stay well, stay safe. Peace.